First hand back, guys. And it's a good one. Wow. I was just trying to grab a mandarin, a mikan as they call them here in Japan. And this is what I see is pocket fives. Okay. I think I'm just going to go ahead and raise here. Just because he's been raising a lot. Could make an argument for calling with this depth of stack. But you know, the problem with just calling is it can be a little bit hard to get value against button players because they have wide ranges. It's not like as a UTJ opener who's been tight, and if we flop a set, we get paid. He could have a wide range and just give up post. And since he's got a wide range, we can punish that wide range with a 3-bet. And if he calls, you know, of course, we have a hand that has decent raw equity, but not great post-flop playability. So it'd be a little bit tough if he calls, but we can always fire a C-bet. And yeah, once in a while, flop big, flop our set. If you had a 4-bet, it would have been pretty nasty. I probably would have folded, to be honest. I just don't think that, in terms of metagame, I don't really think that he's going to be the type to say, hey, I've been opening a lot. Aces up has got some chips now. He's probably going to start 3-betting a bit more. He can. And I've only opened on the button, so I'm going to, you know, attack with a 4-bet here. Take this thing next level. I don't think that he is likely not thinking like that. But I don't really know anything about him. You know, maybe it's, you know, maybe it's Phil Ivy's 888 poker handle. But I don't know. I just don't think he'd be in a $5 rebuy, but on a Sunday. More likely playing a 100k a spin craps table or something. So I think it's more likely this guy is probably on the fishier side. Excuse me while I eat the mikan here, guys. You know, it's all about fruit. Try not to have the sugar and coffees too much. Just pull out a piece of fruit. Tough spot here. This guy's been pretty tight. I think I'm going to 3-bet to fold if he jams. Small size. We get good leverage. He's only M9. He's in the cutoff. Got a blocker. And he's called. I did not expect a call. I think I'm actually going to bet here. The reason why is I think he can have a jack a lot of the time here and we can get some value. And also the board's kind of dangerous. I don't really want to check and have like a 10 or queen or maybe even an 8 if he's got 9-10 suited or something like that, full, or another diamond. So I think better just to bet there. Pretty unlikely to run into a bigger ace because he probably would have shoved it in pre. So we're pretty sure we have the best hand. And with the stacks behind, with the SPR once we bet, we ain't going to be folding. But I think, again, it's just a little bit better to play it that way and try and get a little bit of value and protection at the same time with the smallish C-bet. Rather than getting too tricky and checking. I don't think he's going to stab quite enough if we check. If we think he's some sort of prolific stabber, yeah, I mean, checking's fine. But the thing about it is that the stacks are likely going in anyway. So, I mean, when we're checking as a kind of to induce bluffs, I guess mostly, a tiny bit of pot control, mostly just to induce bluffs. The pot control is pretty insignificant because, I mean, we're likely going to be all in anyway, given how low the SPR was. And I just don't think with the SPR the way it was that he's going to stab because it would be such a high percentage of his stack to do so. Although I guess if he bets, you know, just like the size we did, he gets a pretty good price on it if if he thinks we have a give up range, he can win a decent pot. But I just felt like the check jam, the extra value that we might get by check jamming or check calling is just not significant enough compared to just betting. Apologies before. This guy had 2 pair, didn't he? I did actually notice that on the break when we had the Queen 10. Yeah, he actually had 8-9. And, well, I mean, that type of player is never going to fold that hand. We could have shoved all in. But yeah, anyway. And interesting that he did check the flop on the ace high dry board. Yeah. It's quite interesting, actually, because I really thought he would just take a small stab with it. I think he might have, perhaps the fact that we tanked pre-flop, like we had a decision as to whether to call or raise, maybe. Maybe that sort of swayed him just towards playing a bit careful. And he did have the hand earlier where he said he misclicked. So in either case, he lost the pot. Maybe he was still a bit sort of bothered by that, and for whatever reason, he didn't fire a c-bet. We only have 80 hands on him, but he hasn't actually been c-betting that much, actually, so far. Big stacks going at it, and he just snap folded there, min snap fold to the raise. Actually kind of seems like he might be one of those types that's fairly aggressive when it comes to being the better, but as soon as he gets action or someone opposes him, he might back down a bit. I don't know how I would feel if either player won that, actually. It's probably better, I guess, if EJK busts, I guess. Added in a little luck box there. I think that, yeah, I mean, obviously from an ICM point of view, losing players is good. We move up in pay, get guaranteed more money, I should say. But, yeah, I mean, at the same time, from a point of view of winning, sometimes it's nice to have the stacks a little bit more evenly distributed and playing a little bit tighter because they don't want to be the next to bust. And if you have chips, you can take advantage of that. But I don't know if we really could against Noah, the Noah1204, who's been the active player, because he probably, my hunch is that, ICM is, he thinks ICM is igloo cleaning maids or something like that. Yeah, you guys can come up with your own ICM. I just made that one up, but igloo cleaning maids, is probably what he's thinking it is. I'm just going to definitely just check here, I think. I don't really envisage Noah folding to a raise here once he's limped, unless I make it huge, but I don't really want to do that. And we're getting, obviously, a good price to see the flop since it was free. So we were getting the right price. And if we flop a set, a good chance we can build the pot post-flop against these guys, but we don't flop the set. And we get dealt this middle connected flop, which is pretty horrible, so we have to fold. And he is giving us a lot of action, isn't he? And I like the way Hugh Street here is in position against him. Really putting him under a bit of pressure, isn't he? And picking up a lot of chips in the process. Noah folds again after limping there. It's just an interesting spot for us right now because it's not one of those tables where I can just, keep raising and, just sort of lean on the table because we've got these stacks that are a little bit bigger than us that are very active at the moment. And so I think it's kind of more a matter at the moment of waiting for our our spot. And I think that one of the weaknesses these guys will have is that they'll allow us to get value. Good value against them. But it's hard to get value when you play trash. So I'm probably going to be playing a little bit on the tighter side, I guess you would say. Playing slightly tighter than my normal game for four-handed, that is. But I think we just time a few 3-bets and just find some good spots. Interesting that he's limped button there. I think it could indicate that he's actually a decent player because we did 3-bet him before, and Chikon is kind of got a jamming stack. If he raises, Chikon can just jam over the top, but makes it a little bit more difficult for him if he just limps. Because Chikon is M10 now, M10 four-handed, so effectively quite short. And there is the king. So I'm just going to go ahead and bet here and try and get value, obviously. We can't really do... I don't think we'll be folding to Chikon. Wow. It's looking a lot like King Jack, isn't it, really? Yeah, it's looking like King Jack, but we haven't seen enough of him to know that it's that strong. I mean, he could have King Queen, King 10, overplaying, or just min-raising, setting up a turn bluff with Queen 10 or something. But it does look like King Jack. I mean, a set of 8s is possible, but I thought he would have jammed it pre-flop. And I mean, I guess once in a while he could just be seeing where he's at with, like, I don't know, Jack, Queen, 10, Jack. Basically, what I'm saying is the visibility is not clear enough for us to... Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, we've obviously have a strong hand. Ace King is obviously, top pair, top kicker in that spot is obviously a strong hand. But I'm just trying to weigh up... It's important to always be, consider your options. And in that instance, we've got a player who, from what we've seen, has been pretty tight. All of a sudden, snap check min raising on a dangerous board after he's called out of position from the small blind pre, and he also had a player behind him as well. So I'm kind of surprised he folded there. I thought he might just have a hand he was committing with, because I just, basically, I don't think he has a bluff range in that spot. I mean, I really thought he was committing himself. But maybe he had like ace 10, like an over and a gut shot, and just decided, hey, I'm not folding. This is kind of a weird hand here. Yeah, this is really close here, isn't it? I think I'm going to fold here. I don't really want to make it 260 right now in this spot, but I'm very close to it. But Hugh Street has just kind of small min raised out of position against Noah. Probably doesn't envisage him folding. And so I think Hugh Street often has quite a strong hand in this spot. And our ace-7, is not a monster by any means. Hugh Street looked like he may have had... looked like he may have, I guess, hit the ace on the turn. Ace-king, ace-jack, ace-queen. Maybe he just had kings and he just decided he's going to bet it, but that would be kind of weird. But it certainly could have been a bluff, I guess. The ace is a perfect scare card, and he had the SBR 1 on the turn, so maybe he actually had a hand he was turning into a bluff. Just going to call here in position, because we don't really mind if Noah comes along. And at the same time, we don't really want to go too ballistic against the big stack. Going to check back. It does cap our range, which is bad, but we do have some overs we can hit. And the board is a little bit dangerous. It's pretty close, though, because once Hugh Street caps his range by checking, we kind of get a bit of a green light to bet. But at the same time, Noah's pretty sticky and he can have around that sort of range. And I mean, we obviously did manage to back into the straight. So barring, ooh, that is a big bet. It actually kind of looks a bit Jack Queenish, but I don't think we can bet fold. Yeah, I mean, he almost full potted it. So he was probably just doing that because of Noah, I guess. Because Noah might call with, like, if he somehow had like what was the smallest? Was it small straight? It's a 6 and 2 pair. If he somehow had like I don't know, 7-9, 8-9, or a 6, I guess Noah's probably not folding. That might be what he's thinking. But yeah, when he bets close to pot, it certainly looks like, I mean, obviously best case chopping, and just had to hope he didn't have Jack Queen, but obviously not folding. Yeah, but I do like the way Hugh Street's playing at the moment. He is mixing it up, but for the most part, it looked like he's had the goods at the right time, or been in position and been pressuring sort of Noah's loosish ranges, and he's gone ahead and done that again here. So maybe the A7 suited before we could have gone with the 4-bet. It would have given us, obviously, repped a huge range. You had the ace blocker, a little bit of backup equity to fall back on if we got called. So it might have been a decent spot that we shouldn't have passed up on, but I just felt like we hadn't quite seen that sort of smallish size bet, out of position by Hugh Street yet. So I think that it was probably this is very similar to the board that we saw before, and I think it was Hugh Street check raised, and it's that King XX suited board as well. Very nice boards to check raise on, and I think I'm going to fold because Noah hasn't really been aggressive post flop, and obviously we have nothing and no blockers, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. 60. It's a decent squeeze spot there for Hugh Street. Hopefully these guys aren't picking too much up on my bet sizing. I have been making some very small c-bets and then folding. I don't think we've played enough hands. I mean, this one's slightly over half pot, and it's a hand, so... But, I don't think they're putting 2 and 2 together like that. I am going to bet again here, I think. And then I'm probably going to check the river. Just because his range is quite wide. It's a little bit kind of thin. I guess you can have King Jack or King Queen. But at the same time, he probably calls with any king. He could have some worse kings. He could have Ace 9, 9, 10, 9 Jack. And he can have 10 Jack and Jack Queen as well. Which, yeah, I mean, I guess we check. He's only got a few outs for those hands. And he might bluff the river if we check turn. But I just felt like there was just enough hands we can get value with. And there he is there, just throwing chips around the place. Probably just jam, I guess, here. Given the ICM, if it had a folded. But it's kind of close. Chikon has been on the tight-ish side, so I maybe could have gone for a 3-bet there because the 3x raised by Hugh Street on the button kind of looks a bit weak. I mean, it kind of looks like he doesn't want action when he 3x's it. Like he's got ace 4 or pocket 4s or something like that. I mean, I just don't know if he would make such a large 3x open on the button. We've seen him limp the button, min the button. I just don't think he's going to make that size with a very strong hand. Because he'd want to give the players behind a little bit more option to raise or at least contest the pot in some way. Limp jam by Chikon, I think against Noah, who splashes around a bit. But, I mean, yeah, it's probably not too bad. Noah doesn't always raise too much in that spot, so... going to go with a check call here. And, well, almost want to turn our hand into a bluff and raise, but I think it's a little bit too strong to do that right now. But I think Chikon can just be betting with a hand that he's folding here. But Hugh Street has called as well. I'm just worried someone has King Jack or King Queen here. Well, not so worried now. Interesting bet and interesting raise. I mean, I guess Hugh Street most of the time here is going to have Ace 3 or King 3 perhaps. I guess. A set of 7s or 3. No, he could have a set of 3s, I guess. The flop bet was so small. I'm really surprised the way Chikon's played this, though, because he bet, what was it, like the minimum? I think it was the minimum, right, on the flop. And then pretty quickly, half pot turn. I think he's just done like a big donk play here with pretty much nothing. He's just bet small flop. Like, oh, I hope they fold. I'll just do a little bet. Pretend I have an ace. And then when we just called, he's like, okay, no one's got an ace. No one's bet. No one's raised. I'm just going to bet. They're going to fold. So, I mean, just kind of a basic logic. I mean, it looked like he was a little bit lucky that, you know, Hugh Street did run into something. Yeah, I think I will float one here. Gut shot, backdoor hearts. That's actually a pretty good card for us, isn't it? I will go ahead and bet here, I think, if he checks. And I'm going to bet this much. It looks like we have a queen, I think. Because, I mean, we didn't raise pre, so we haven't got that many aces in our range. And, I mean, that's just part of the reason why I floated flop, obviously, is because we might be able to rep hearts or, you know, straights or, you know, queens and whatever, and later straights for thin value, make a small bet. I did bet a little bit largish because I just didn't want to give him too much incentive to try anything, whether it be, you know, check raising, which is super unlikely, but also, you know, just calling, just in case he did happen to have some sort of like small pair or, you know, something like that, that, you know, was interested. Kind of tightish fold here. It's kind of a game flow fold. I think this guy Hugh Street's been, you know, very active now. These guys have become very short behind us. And I just kind of felt like it's... Yeah, I mean, I just kind of felt like we can find a good spot now, I think. I don't want to really... In position, it's good, though, but I don't really want to get too crazy on the other big stack right now, since he can bust us. And these other guys now, Noah sort of gone into his shell a bit, and Chikon is very short. And I think for that reason, I'm probably... Yeah, oh, it's pretty close. I think I will... Yeah, I think I will bet here. But I don't want to bet too large. But I do want to try and fold out if he's defended with, like, you know, ace 5 or pocket 2s. I do want to try and fold out. I mean, the worst thing there about checking is if we let him get to showdown with, like, you know, ace 8, it's pretty bad. Because we had a very good semi-bluffing hand with good equity against that hand, and there's no reason why he should be able to get to showdown with that sort of marginal hand in that spot, out of position. Otherwise, we're just playing too weak. But at the same time, ICM was a consideration, so, you know, I didn't want to... I mean, I just wanted to bet small so that if he did check raise, barring some crazy sizing, we could, you know, call in position and try and hit and potentially, you know, rep something on later streets. So, you know, as I was saying, we thought we were going to lose players soon, and we just did. And we really have to kind of think about what we're going to do now three-handed, I think. We're in a little bit... It's kind of good and bad, I think, this spot. Yeah, I mean, we haven't really been that aggressive yet. And so, Hugh Street's actually probably in a better spot because he's got, Noah who's been splashy behind him. Well, in front of him, I should say. He can be in position when it's blind on blind against him and when he's on the button. I think this hand's probably a little bit too strong to fold here. But I don't really want to 4-bet it. Looks like about 3/4. 180. Yeah, I think we're going to give him this one. Kind of annoying. He could have a range that we're... I mean, we could have the best hand. We could have the best hand sometimes, but I think that this is an interesting spot here. We've seen Hugh now make this isolation play quite a bit. That's quite a large one. But certainly we want to look if we get the opportunity to potentially, attack in that spot now, because it could be a good spot to pick up chips. Wow, look at that. The old King 8 and the limp call from Noah. It's actually, I guess, it looks super fishy, but it's actually not that bad, I guess. It's actually not really that bad. Given the game dynamic, it's not that bad. Because Noah, Hugh Street's been raising him quite a bit, and he's in position. So Noah, that is. So pretty torn between checking and betting. I think I'm going to check call because we have backdoor spades, backdoor straight, and I think I'm going to do it again. And we just have to call down now. I hope he hasn't hit the 3 or anything silly on the river. Wow, look at that. Oof. Yeah, that would have been... that hand could certainly have been interesting if we had a bet flop and he would float. He's got 2 overs and a gut shot. We both turn a flush draw. We probably bet again. He probably calls. And then the river... we probably check, I guess. And then he probably stabs maybe now that the pot's huge because he knows he has to bet to win, I guess. But thinks that maybe he can by betting. And then I don't know if we would have folded ace jack high because it kind of would have really have looked like he had 7. I think we're going to raise here. 130, 8, 9, 2, 1. I just don't want him to get into the habit now of thinking he can just limp in. And we've got the ace blocker. It's probably a decent time. Probably queen 10 suited. I'd probably just check behind because it's got more post-flop playability. But I think the ace 4, it doesn't... It's got a little bit more raw equity, but it's not as playable as it looks, even heads up, because, you've only flopped the ace like 14% or whatever it is, and then the rest of the time you're sort of... Yeah, I mean, you got ace high, but what if the board's jack 8-7 with 2 hearts? It's just nasty. This is a little bit of a concern, is the free chips that Noah gets in the big blind when we just fold. But at the same time, he's so sticky, it's hard to go ahead and keep raising him with trash. So I think we kind of don't have too much choice about it. I will go ahead and bet this one. I think that it's we probably just get enough folds. I guess you can have a 4 or a smallish king, 5-6, maybe even ace 3, I guess. We got the gut shot, and the 7s and 8s might be good, so it's kind of annoying because it looks like he's going to have... Well, I guess he's going to have a 4 or a 5 or... Yeah, 4, ace 4, kind of makes sense. I don't know what he does if we bet turn, He probably folds, but he might not. Might not fold.